Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Schweizer, and I'm a senior music education major currently working in my student teaching placement for my final semester here at Gettysburg. As you may recall from the summer presentations, this past June and July I had the incredible opportunity to travel with 17 other students to the island of Bali, Indonesia. Now, over the course of 4 weeks, we rehearsed and performed in several different styles of gamelan, most notably angklung, which is used in Bali primarily for religious ceremonies such as cremations, although we here at Gettysburg have our own gamelan angklung Gita Smara, which means heavenly sound, that we play in a more modern style. We also played in gang kebyar, which translates literally to lightning, and features extremely complex interlocking passages called kotekan. Now, we learned these styles from several different Balinese teachers in several different learning environments, primarily in the communities of Sanur, Ubud, and Karambitan. Now, while on the trip, I video recorded almost every rehearsal and performance, which amounted to about 50 hours of video footage, conducted 15 interviews with student participants on the trip, as well as with a few of our Balinese teachers, and reflected on my experiences of being a participant observer through daily journal entries on the trip. Now, it is important to note that most of the students on the first half of the trip, and all on the second half, were either pre-service music teachers, practicing music teachers, college professors, or were enrolled in Dr. Talbot's Education 298 course, which was titled Language, Culture, and Immigration. Now, the goal of this course, and really for the whole trip, was to experience and reflect on what it is like to be an other in a music learning environment. In other words, myself and all of the participants who were interviewed, including the Balinese teachers, were interested in and thinking about how people learn, more specifically how people learn music, either through their personal backgrounds working with students or through class discussions about the learning practices present in Balinese gamelan. Now, if you recall from my presentation this summer, I showed you a short video clip from one of our gang kebyar rehearsals in Ubud, in which a student was initially confused by a cue that had not been specifically addressed in rehearsal. In the clip, the initial confusion caused several students to use the agency that they had developed through their own familiarity working with each other and in the environment to jump in and try to help the student, only to realize that everyone in the clip was referring to a different section in the music. Now, in my summer presentation, I outlined a number of factors that I felt contribute to this, such as discourse, discursive practices, semiotics, indexicalities, mediational means, participation structures, identity, agency, power, motivation, and, of course, music transmission, uptake, meaning-making, interpretation, and many others. Now, in my presentation at Celebration, when I have a bit more time, I will explore each of these more in depth, but for now I'd like to share two of the implications that I've drawn from these results. The first is a contextualized theory that I have developed, which states simply that for music transmission to occur, discursive meaning must be established by all present in the environment. Now, while this was certainly true in the learning environments that we experienced, and I'm sure that it's true in other more familiar learning environments, this was a contextualized theory, and I only observed this environment, so therefore I can't prove this for all music learning environments. Now, however, I'm not out to prove anything. Rather, my role as an ethnographic researcher is to raise more questions. So, after the summer presentation, I transcribed and coded my interviews, and sorted through all the video data, and found a few other points that illustrate an interesting point. Now, had the student from the original video not asked about the part that she was confused about, it was likely that many other students would have just followed along with what they thought was right, and not really fully understood what was going on in the rehearsal. So, moving back to a Western context, or really any music learning context, how can we measure individual student learning if students can blend in so easily into ensembles? Now, here are a few quotes from participants that I interviewed that outline these points. Kevin says, "The way we were set up, I could see everyone in front of me. I was not the person who had to learn it first, so I could learn it almost at my leisure in the back just by watching the people in front of me." Julie says, "I think it's when groups of people interpret the signals differently and the entire ensemble doesn't quite do the same thing. Like in Topeng Manière, one of our songs, when we're changing the tempos, and it's like, does soft mean slow? So that's confusing." Madison says, "My meeting was a disaster. Like I was just kind of watching everyone else do it. I literally didn't play it during the performance. I just kind of faked it." And Kevin again says, "I don't feel completely independent. Like, if everyone else went away, and you just said play this part, I don't think that I could do it. I would struggle to perform it on my own, without others." Now, these students weren't the only ones who mentioned that they relied on others to help them at various points in the rehearsal, and help is not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but if we relate this to a Western context, for anyone who is ever in an ensemble, such as band or orchestra, how easy, or choir even, how easy is it for students to blend in with their peers and to get by without actually learning anything? Now, classrooms, in the words of Clements and Klinger, 2010, classrooms and schools are complex social, intellectual, and physical environments where the average teacher makes more than 1,000 interactions a day with different levels and nuances of meaning. So the goal of many educational organizations and teachers all around is to promote lifelong music making. So I've created some questions below that might help to address this. To teachers, or pre-service teachers, or anyone in a teaching role, how does your teaching environment, or in this case a classroom, or any teaching environment, affect the learning environment of your students? What do you and your students bring to the learning environment, and how can you foster their growth with the qualities that they bring? And most importantly, how can we create lifelong learners, music learners, and lifelong music makers? Now, in my celebration presentation, I will share some of my other implications that I have found, but overall, this research aims to keep raising the bar for music education. So, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Here's my email. And I look forward to seeing you at Celebration. Thank you very much.